last hope has failed. The wall is breached. All of our accomplishments, all of our ambitions, now turned to rubble. They have come. The gates of hell have opened and the dead have risen to consume the living. Their arrival was sudden and unannounced. Within a fortnight they were beyond count. The sun has risen over humanity's head for the last time. This world belongs to them now. And we are rendered utterly helpless, despairing, and looking out with dread for what lurks in the dark. It's an undeniable fact that for the past few decades, the zombie, in true undead fashion, has simply refused to die. No matter where you turn, no matter what form of media you choose to enjoy, someone, somewhere, has found a way to add zombies to it. Turn on the TV, there's zombies in it. Turn on your video game console, there's a new zombie shooter for you to try out, and so on. Ever since the late George A. Romero, God rest his soul, released his iconic film Night of the Living Dead, the image of this ghoulish creature has become such a fixation of modern pop culture that even the most sheltered, hyper-protective families all know what a zombie is, no doubt preparing for their inevitable takeover. But what is it about these shambling corpses that have made them such a mainstay in the horror genre? There are, of course, those who argue that zombies aren't scary in the slightest.
So they're just typical slow zombies?
Yeah.
So they're like disabled versions of humans, like a swarm of retarded people. Or like a swarm of drunks who are on the verge of passing out.
Yeah.
Then no. In real life, the zombie apocalypse would not happen.
But, as everyone who's seen the last episode of this series knows, I'm most certainly not one of them. And so, allow me to play the role of devil's advocate here and articulate why I personally find zombies to be not only scary, but in fact, utterly terrifying. To begin with, let's go over what a zombie is. Traditionally, what we recognize as a zombie is a reanimated corpse with a desperate craving for human flesh. Throughout history, there have been many variations of the creature, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Algonquin Wendigo, and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, just to name a few. In fact, did you know that vampires were originally a lot closer to what we now call zombies? It's pretty clear that the idea of a reanimated and predatory corpse has frightened humanity for centuries. But why is that? Well, the first thing to note is that zombies, by definition, are a perversion of the natural order of things. In the most literal sense, they are the living dead, something we deem to be physically impossible. It betrays our understanding of how the world works and, as such, naturally catches us off guard. Dead things are supposed to be just that. Dead things. So what's making it move? And can it be stopped if it's already died once? There's of course the old saying, kill the brain and you kill the ghoul. But can you be certain? And what if you can't rely on that? What if injuring the brain doesn't stop it? What then? The fact that a corpse has suddenly started moving, despite being absolutely dead, is frightening because it is something that shouldn't be. And yet, it is. The inherent mystery of what reanimates a zombie can often be just as scary as the creature itself. Without a firm understanding of what makes it work, it leaves us unsure of what to do, and thus, naturally makes us afraid. Compounding the uneasiness of seeing a rotting corpse shambling around on its own is the taboo of cannibalism, i.e., consumption of another member of one's own species. Historically speaking, the act of eating another human being has long been seen as one of the foulest acts of evil imaginable. But what is the science of this taboo? We know it's horrific and gut-wrenching, but why does it disturb us so? The exact origin of cannibalism and its association with the taboo is currently unknown, but it can be said that the act itself evokes a primal aspect of human nature that we would rather not think about. Here's my hypothesis. Cannibalism is quite common in the animal world, as the predator and prey dynamic out there can be quite merciless. When a predator chooses to eat another one of its own kind, it serves to illustrate, quite graphically, that their nature is inherently a savage one. They don't make any real distinction between their natural prey and their own species. If they can kill it, it's fair game. Thus, when we see a human or humanoid entity eating another person, it's shocking because psychologically, we perceive ourselves to be above that kind of savagery. Thus, we're compelled to disassociate ourselves with those who eat the flesh of other people, reducing them in our minds to animals. But then, that's just my theory.
Reports are filtering in from all across the nation. The dead are rising from their graves and seeking out the living with ravenous desire. These ghoulish creatures have infested the city in search of living human prey. The quarantines have been breached, and the military has been overrun by swarming masses of the living dead. It's as if the gates of hell have opened.
Of course, on its own, a zombie really isn't that much of a threat when compared to other supernatural creatures. It's slow, it's stupid, and it's relatively easy to kill in most mythologies. But like ants, cockroaches, and plenty of other pests in the world, where there's one, there's several more. Anyone who's ever researched zombies or so much as watched a movie about them will know that, at least when it comes to the modern variation, they are never alone. Packs of these things will generally have around 30 or 50 at a time, and that's a conservative estimate. And when they catch wind of a human being, every single one of them has the exact same thing on its mind: to consume. Now, we've all met at least one idiot who sincerely thought that they could take on an entire zombie horde in the event of an apocalypse. You know who I'm talking about. The ones who think they'd turn into Rambo if our social structure collapsed in the wake of an undead invasion. But the truth is, on their own against an entire pack, they'd be overwhelmed in minutes. That's when zombies are at their most dangerous, when they're all coming down on a single victim. Oh, you can go ahead and fire as many bullets as you like. Try aiming for the head. See how many fall down. But can you account for the zombies coming up from behind you, as well as the ones in front of you? How about the ones digging their way through the floorboards? Will you have enough ammunition to finish them off before they finish you, or... And just like that, it's over. Tens, hundreds, an endless wave of rotting faces moaning and snarling as their hands reach out and take hold of your body. Smack one away from your right arm, and another has already sunk its teeth into your left. Struggle to get them away from your head, and you might notice too late that they've already begun ripping into your intestines. Go ahead. Cry for help. Who's going to hear you now? Who can even help you? And the worst part about this scenario is, there's no way of knowing how long you'll still be alive and conscious. They aren't in any hurry here, taking bits and pieces, chewing them down at a very slow pace, and then taking some more. This could last for several long, agonizing minutes. And the worst part is, the very last thing you'll see in that moment is their sunken eyes and skeletal faces mashing their mangled teeth with your flesh as they eat you alive.
Be on the lookout for the following warning signs of the doomsday virus: profuse sweating, bloodshot eyes, slurred speech, drooling, convulsions, and overall erratic behavior. If someone you know exhibits one or more of these symptoms, do not go near them. The virus causes violent outbursts in the infected subjects. Get away from them as fast as you can, or isolate them in a secured area.
As if these cannibalistic hordes weren't bad enough already, there have been numerous mythologies depicting them as being carriers of both radiation and disease. Whether they are the product of nuclear waste or an unidentified virus, the fact is that when it comes to zombies, they don't have to bite you to be dangerous. If you're breathing the same air that they're currently occupying, that puts you at just as big of a risk of infection as being injured by them. In The Walking Dead, for instance, it's revealed that the zombies, or walkers as the show calls them, merely represent the final stage of an infection that every single character has. Meaning, when people die in this series, they are doomed to become zombies themselves. A toxic bite may speed up the process, but no matter how well they manage to survive, it's not going to last forever. They're done for, even if they refuse to admit it. This factor serves to make zombies much, much scarier as a figure of horror. You can run, you can hide, but there's never a guarantee that you'll be completely safe, even if the zombies aren't around in a given area. Everywhere they walk, the air, the ground, the water, it'll all be infected. How much do you want to bet that the water from a stream is safe to drink? Or that the dirt is safe to grow crops in? And how long will it take before you succumb to the same poisoning that got the world into this mess to begin with? How about your friends and family? Can you really be sure that they won't suddenly become sick and turn one day? This is one element that I'm surprised not a lot of zombie enthusiasts or critics have stopped to consider. Because of the health hazards that these creatures bring, getting rid of them suddenly becomes easier said than done. A physical monster can be dealt with, but an invisible virus or radiation poisoning? It's enough to make us wonder, what would we do in the event of a zombie outbreak? How could we stop it? Would there be anything we could do to stop it?
Current estimate in the U.S. puts the number of dead at over 10 million. But this is, many would consider, a wildly conservative estimate. Regarding the entire world, I can't even begin to give you a number.
With all these things considered, zombies being living corpses, feeding on humans to survive, attacking in massive hordes, and spreading biohazards everywhere they go, it's time to conclude this video with the final aspect of what makes zombies so scary. Even if you find shelter, even if you're armed with a whole gallery of weapons, even if you got enough supplies stockpiled to last into the next 10 years, they're still going to reach you. One day, your defenses will burst and they'll come pouring in like a flood through a broken dam, consuming everything and everyone you've ever held dear. They can't be stopped. They never tire, they never sleep, and they never rest. Most you can do is keep running, but to where? The world has ended. You truly are on your own. It's over. They won. And though we can try to keep fighting, in the long run, it is futile. The world is theirs now, and we are on the way to extinction. The slate is wiped clean. That is the truest horror of zombies. They're scary because they can't be stopped. Kill one and 5 more will rise in its place. It's a force that bends to no one and fears nothing. And it's for this reason, and all others mentioned in this episode, that to me, zombies are not the running joke of the horror genre, but in fact, they are some of the scariest things ever brought to it. That concludes this episode of What Lurks in the Dark. Don't forget to stay tuned for next week, when we will dissect the grim and haunting horror of ghosts. Until then, this is your host Michael Day saying, subscribe, leave a comment, like, and thanks for watching.